So my buddy that works at BlackRock, I was having a conversation with him last night at the pool.
Yeah.
And he was like, all the advisors out there are not advising their clients to buy a lot of Bitcoin. Maybe 1-2% per BlackRock's white paper.
Yeah. 1 to 2% of their like portfolio, they would like kind of convert over into, I guess, the Bitcoin ETF.
Yeah. But then they go home at night and they buy Bitcoin. And he also said that they have like this model that like if you remove Bitcoin from it and you just look at the performance over time and you look at like the risk adjusted projections on the performance of Bitcoin, you know, if it didn't say Bitcoin, like all these advisors would look at it and be like, yeah, give me as much of that as I can possibly have. But then they put Bitcoin and they're like, no, we won't touch it.
Welcome to Sat Chat's Rehash, the Bitcoin podcast where we chatting about sats. Today we have got number 77, Quahana, number 78, Jamar, both doctors, and number 79, Ashlyn, who is number 40, Anna Bevan's mom, number 8, Keen's wife. We're just making whole family networks in here.
100%.
I'll be your host today, Stuart Bitcoin Maxi, who wears prescription sunglasses to protect you and your loved ones from my Bitcoin laser eyes.
And I'm your co-host, Chris, founder and CEO of Ithaca Hummus, resident smash buyer when my wife lets me. We are giving away 10 million sats on our YouTube channel. All you have to do is subscribe to Sat Chats, and you're entered to win, just like that. Couldn't be easier.
Smash the subscribe so that you can prove to all your friends and family that you were part of our YouTube community when it was only this big.
That is, you can't, there's only one time to do that.
Yes.
And it's now. Like people get a lot out of being early to something.
Yes.
And Stuart, you were having a conversation, it sounds like, over the last day or two with someone who was like, oh, your cousin.
My nephew. And he said that as an 18-year-old, he's grown up in the world of YouTube. And part of the coolest thing, one of the coolest things is finding someone early and being able to claim that spot. Because we can see your name, we can see your subscribe date if you make it public, which you will when it's time to grab the 10 million sats. But get in there, man, because this is the world's biggest Bitcoin welcome center, and you're at the very beginning. Okay?
Very beginning, or be like Senor Gringo Poppy, DS Flat,
man.
I mean,
Senor Gringo is like from sheesh. Yeah. These guys are early.
Yeah,
early.
Yeah.
Richard Puente, early.
I mean, they might as well have their name on a plaque in the wall as founding subscribers. Like those guys are in the chat on our lives every Friday. They comment on every episode.
Yes.
I mean, they're part of the cornerstone.
Exactly. So this community is small, but it's mighty, and it's only going to get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger because of episodes like the 3 that we're going to be going over today.
Yeah.
So number 77, Quahana, was really a great show because we tried to tape her show once and the internet went out in St. Louis.
Mm-hmm.
So when she came back on to reshoot her show, she had taken the time to watch our short stack called What is Bitcoin? So she came in and was like, now I understand that Bitcoin is electronic money. That was actually the only thing that she came away with.
But that's all she needed to come away with.
Yes.
She was like, I get it. Bitcoin's money.
Yeah.
It's just digital.
Yes.
And it's like, yeah, you do. That's the basis for, and people get lost on that. People are like, oh, it's digital gold. Or, it's like an investable asset.
Yeah.
It's like, no, it's being used as that, but at its base, Bitcoin is just digital money.
I've heard some people say that they actually like that Bitcoin is classified into so many different slots, and also sitting at the center of this maelstrom of different cryptocurrencies that are flying around, because they believe the confusion around Bitcoin is going to give Bitcoin more time.
Oh, that unquestionably.
But my question to you is it better to create confusion around Bitcoin to give it more time to become the most secure and the most strong it can be before mainstream adoption? Or is clarifying Bitcoin for everyone and saying, look, this is money, plain and simple, and it's the money of the future, plain and simple, and you need to get some now, plain and simple. Is that a stronger pathway to adoption?
Well, it's faster, but I think it depends on, number one, what the long-term vision and goals are. Number two, what's your time preference? You know, right? I don't think there's anything wrong with letting the confusion that's out there play itself out. We can be, doing our work to help smooth some of that out and help one person at a time, putting content out in the world that hopefully helps demystify some of the confusion. But there's a certain amount of the pace is going to be the pace.
Yeah.
And maybe that's a good thing.
I do think one thing that I love about Bitcoin is that it keeps going no matter what.
Yeah.
It's tick-tock, next block. Every 10 minutes, Bitcoin proves to the world that it still works. And there could be confusion around Bitcoin. There could be ultimate clarity around Bitcoin. And Bitcoin will not care either way. And part of what I love about Bitcoin is it just keeps going, man. It doesn't matter what's happening around Bitcoin. Bitcoin's just like it just keeps its head down and just keeps grinding out. I love that.
So my buddy that works at BlackRock, I was having a conversation with him last night at the pool.
Yeah.
And he was like, all the advisors out there are not advising their clients to buy, a lot of Bitcoin. Maybe 1-2% per BlackRock's white paper.
Yeah. 1 to 2% of their portfolio, they would kind of convert over into, I guess, the Bitcoin ETF.
Yeah. But then they go home at night and they buy Bitcoin.
Oh, alert.
It's like they're buying it, but they don't want to recommend it or be too bullish to their clients because they don't know how that's going to make them look in front of these people.
Yeah.
Because some people just it's like this untouchable, like a dirty word almost.
Okay.
And he also said that if they have this model that if you remove Bitcoin from it and you just look at the performance over time and you look at the risk adjusted projections on the performance of Bitcoin, if it didn't say Bitcoin, all these advisors would look at it and be like, yeah, give me as much of that as I can possibly have. But then they put Bitcoin and they're like, no, we won't touch it.
Wow.
And then when they have clients who are insistent on bringing Bitcoin into their portfolio, what they're telling them is, over 1 year, you have maybe a 40% chance of this thing going down to zero, which, that's what they're saying, which I don't believe. But in 2 years, that goes down to 19%. In 3 years, that goes down to maybe, high single digit %. But in 4 years, it's zero risk. And when you look at the upside, it's going to be the most valuable thing in your portfolio.
So does that mean that BlackRock feels Bitcoin has a 4-year horizon from right now?
Exactly. What they're saying is it's a 4-year buy and hold asset. So you're locked in. If you were to get some other, put your money in here, you got to keep it locked up for 4 years and we'll give you this kind of return.
Yeah.
That's how to look at it.
Okay.
It's a 4-year, buy it, hold it for 4 years. At the end of that 4 years, maybe you want to sell some of it. Maybe you love it and you want to keep it. But then again, you're faced with the same decision of, okay, if I keep it, I'm keeping it for another 4. So they're basically looking at it in 4-year holding cycles.
Yes. Okay.
Which I think is really conservative. I would for myself, I probably anything I'm not going to need in 2 years, I'm putting it into Bitcoin. But I think the moral of the story is if you pull back the curtain and you look at some of the, really smart people that work at BlackRock and understand financial analysis, and they do this all day long. they're bigger believers in Bitcoin than they're actually publishing.
Yeah.
Because they have to, and I understand why. They don't want to like go out on a limb on this thing that, what one of the things that makes them uncomfortable about Bitcoin is that for a stock or for any other kind of like equity that it has risk, so like not a bond, not a treasury bill, but like a stock that has a company behind it, they can go out and they can research the market, the management team, the history, the revenue growth, the profitability, the market dynamics in their category, what's going on in the supply chain. They can research all that stuff. You try to do that with Bitcoin, there's nobody home. Who are you going to talk to? What management team are you going to, look at their hit? What, there's no supply chain. There's no raw materials.
Yeah.
There's no labor cost. There's none of that. So they're just, it makes them uncomfortable. And I understand why. It's not what they're used to.
Yeah.
So anyway, moral of the story, I think what I love about this conversation that I had last night is that this guy, I talked to him about Bitcoin maybe a year ago, and he was buying Bitcoin in 2017, by the way. So he was buying like 20K Bitcoin. And
is he a guy that recommends? Is he one of those consultant type dudes, or is he a different dude at BlackRock? It's a different role.
What he does, and I don't want to give too much away. No,
he's not one.
He's not.
That's all. We just gotta stop there.
Yeah.
Okay, but he was buying it in 2017 himself
for 20K. His current cost basis is in the 40s,
and
he's got probably a good amount.
Sheesh.
But even a year ago when I was talking to him about it, he's like, yeah, it's one of those things. It's like, I don't know. I can't not have it because it's definitely in the conversation of the future. But now he's like, dude, I'm looking at this and I'm like trying to convince my wife to let me just liquidate everything and go full Bitcoin.
Yeah, let's go.
It is happening.
Seriously, take every available resource you have and convert it into Bitcoin, because you will be able to convert it back out into an unlimited amount of real world goods and services.
Here's the other thing. A year ago, he's like, not so sure. Now he's trying to go full on Bitcoin.
Yeah.
And we talked about the price. And he's like, I wake up every day and I look at the price of Bitcoin. It doesn't make sense. Doesn't make sense. All these people are buying, and people who buy aren't selling.
Correct.
So first of all, where's the supply of Bitcoin coming from to meet the demand of Strategy buys hundreds of millions of dollars, BlackRock buys, you see it every day.
Yeah.
They're like making these massive purchases. So number one, where is it coming from? Number two, why isn't the price of Bitcoin skyrocketing right now? There's price suppression happening right now, which I don't fully understand. I don't know where it's coming from or even necessarily how it works. I'll be the first to admit. But I do know enough to know that if there's price suppression happening right now, at some point, the lid is going to blow off of that.
Sure.
It's like a pressure cooker. It's like it's this artificial force that is capping the price of Bitcoin today. And when the lid blows off of that, we're going to get another massive bull run. And who knows where that's going to land, the price. But
well, if you're like number 14, Robert, who you all should go back and watch now that he's been published, he'll tell you that Bitcoin is going to go up to 100 million. Yeah. We said Bitcoin was going to go to the moon. He's like, and beyond, past that.
It was like a reaction.
It ain't going to land.
Yeah.
It ain't going to land. We don't know where it's going to land because it ain't going to land.
Yeah.
It ain't going to land.
Yeah.
So let's talk about that for a minute here, because I can identify with how you're feeling. And I can identify with how this BlackRock guy is feeling.
Good.
We plebs, as we're known, right? We're just plebeians over here. We're just normal, everyday Bitcoin citizens. We are not whales, We're plebs, right? The shorthand for plebeian is plebs, right? So the plebs are waking up each day. We're checking the price of Bitcoin, and we're like, dude, it's at 104, it's at 108.
No, it's 105, 106, 104, 108, 103. Like, it's like this. It's flat.
Yes. We're like, look, over 3 Bitcoin, fresh, brand new Bitcoin every 10 minutes. Okay. So there's got to be a couple hundred fresh Bitcoin per day. Right. And, but Michael Saylor just bought like another, 10,000 Bitcoin. Right. And it's like, well, where is this Bitcoin coming from? Aren't we running out? Shouldn't the price be shooting up? There must be price suppression here. Right. So I took a look at this the other day, and I found a really nice take on this. And I'll try to get to where I'm going to go, but to kind of keep it in terms of how you're looking at it, that price of Bitcoin is only what we can see through the transactions on exchanges that are happening in a way where the price paid can be recorded. But when you have that OTC, when you have that white glove service where somebody like Coinbase for Michael Saylor, or maybe Bitcoin Well for someone who's going to buy over 50K, they're taking that peer-to-peer transaction is happening, not out in the open. So what that means is that price information can't get back to the places that are trying to determine Bitcoin's price. So you could have a situation where someone is privately paying $150,000 for a Bitcoin, but you and me don't see it. All we see is the stuff that's happening out in the open, right? And people get tricked into believing that the price of Bitcoin is the price of Bitcoin. It's not. It's just the best dang guess that we have given our information. So short story long, he pointed out that Bitcoin can change hands in a way that doesn't necessarily bring all the information back to you.
Yeah.
And some people they are paying more, or they're paying a little bit less. You can get a deal on Bitcoin. You could have somebody who's like, dude, I'm desperate. It's like, well, I'll pay you $80K for that Bitcoin, homie. We don't know, right? So that's part of the puzzle, right? But he also pointed out that people crying price suppression just want Bitcoin to go to the moon. And what they don't realize is that they're talking about an asset that, you may or may not agree with this, but he felt like you can't suppress the price of Bitcoin because Bitcoin can't be suppressed in any way, shape, or form. Mm-hmm. Bitcoin is Bitcoin. It's a free market. And yeah, we're all paying between 100 and 110, but somebody could be paying 200. Somebody could be paying 80. Some dude's mining it and getting it for free. So you can suppress a market that you can control. And they feel like there's a lot of people that are like, hey man, like BlackRock and like Fidelity and Jamie Dimon's thing, whatever, JP Morgan, like they're all, and politicians, like everybody's like somehow artificially keeping the price low so they can get as much of it as they quietly before it explodes. Maybe, but that's not necessarily suppression the same way something that can be controlled is suppressed. Mm-hmm. But either way, but my take is, okay, I can identify with you feeling like it's suppressed. I like this guy's take that it can't be suppressed. Yeah. But at the very end, my take is, I don't care.
Yeah, me either.
Because your boy has diamond hands. Yeah. And actually, I don't even agree with the term diamond hands because diamonds can now be made in a lab. And I actually went and saw it myself here in Raleigh because Moissanite is a Raleigh company that just makes diamonds in a lab. I got Bitcoin hands, dude. Mm-hmm. Diamond hands aren't good enough. I got Bitcoin hands. I ain't never letting go of this Bitcoin unless I'm exchanging it for real world goods and services, period. Yeah. So whether it takes a day, a week, a month, a year, or a decade for all of that stuff to finally result in 100 to 1 million, I'm going to be there for it.
Good.
And I'm going to be buying it all along the way. Yeah. Period. So anyways, great story about talking to someone inside BlackRock. That's beautiful. Yeah. Now, Quahana, her episode was really nice because she came primed with our video. Mm-hmm. And then it was more about how do I get some? And we actually just talked about setting up an account on Coinbase and buying $50 by hand and just continuing to learn more. And I felt like her episode was a great way for a pre-coiner who's ready to buy some Bitcoin to just listen to someone else learn about how to get some Bitcoin fairly easily and continue their learning journey.
Mm-hmm.
It's great.
Yep.
And let's see here. Old Chappie, she said that Dr. Quahana's episode was a warm, beginner-friendly on-ramp that nails empathy. So appreciate it. All right, now Dr. Jamar Montgomery.
Love this one.
Now, Dr. Jamar was great, man.
He was. Yeah, he was, you can always tell how well someone knows a specific topic or subject matter by the way that they explain it. He was able to, break things down into very simple terms that are easy for anyone to understand. And so we did a lot of asking him to do that on the episode. Like, what is fractional reserve banking?
Yeah.
What's the difference between monetary policy and fiscal policy?
Yeah.
And he didn't tell us until the very end of the episode, but this guy went to college, started taking college classes at 11.
So one part of his genius that I loved, when there's a lot of times when we're working with someone, and they're just like, they cannot escape the US dollar. Everything in their mind revolves around the dollar and can only be understood in dollar terms. And it's almost like you're trying to, take some of that dish soap and get the oil off of this poor little duck that got caught in the spill.
Don.
Yeah. And Don's like, oh, yeah, that's
we
right.
got him. We still got him.
They're like, somehow our product is made out of petroleum, but cleans it off of animals. Yes, we're literally going to sell you the thing that got spilled on the animal. Yeah. It's amazing. They love it. They're like, we cornered the market. So it's like you're trying to get them fully clean and into this new system, but there's like one drop of ichor that remains that you can't get off, and it ends up re-consuming them.
Yeah.
He formed up Bitcoin in a way that I think really divorces it neatly from any other system, which is we create our own value network. It's our own, it's self-contained, it's currency. And as long as you can accept it and as long as you can send it and receive it, you're good.
Value network.
That was just
Great term.
Yeah. Great episode for him.
Yes.
And Chaps, she said that Dr. Jamar was an electric big brain money history talk. Big brain.
Would you say that was for beginners, intermediate, or expert subject matter seekers?
So that's a tough call. We covered some advanced concepts, but Jamar cut through them in a way that was so easy to understand that my gut would land at intermediate.
Yeah, I would say so too.
Because when he explains that the monetary system is how money is created and the financial system is how it's spent, I'm like, dang, that was easy to understand.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
When he talks about fractional reserve banking just being like taking money and getting a piece of it sitting on, he even like cut a Costco ad for us to show us like how it worked. I would say maybe intermediate.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. And also he had some great stuff about how the Black community should be getting into this for the same reasons that number 58, Amanda was like, women need to get into this.
Yeah.
So, great episode. Last one here, number 79, Ashlyn, Anna Bevan's mom. What I love about her is that she was willing to have an open mind about Bitcoin. And she was willing to create a framework that she could use to not just dismiss this thing outright. Because when you see me and Lion trying to orange pill my sister, good night, almighty, dude.
Just
goblins.
Goblins.
Literally at one point, she's like, I don't care about inflation. What? Like, do you have any other selling points? I'm like, what?
Oh my God.
What?
Oh my
You're
God.
working hard, you're saving money, but you don't care that everything costs more all the time. She's like, well, I can't control that. So what else you got? I'm like, dude. But Ashlyn was like, you know what? These guys are talking about Bitcoin all the time. These guys have basically come right up into my daughter's house and are just blasting on this, like, you know, digital currency day in and day out. But you know what? When I was watching the Jetsons, they were talking about guys working from home, having video calls with their bosses, and nobody thought that could ever be. You know, she's like, I was watching Dick Tracy and he had a wristwatch that could make a telephone call. Nobody thought that could ever be. And here we are working from home, taking video calls from our boss and making phone calls from our watches. So if these futuristic elements can come true, maybe there's something to Bitcoin.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, her story about, like, at the beginning, she was confused as to whether she was a Bitcoiner or not.
Yeah.
And then she told us a story about how she offered her grandson, or actually her son, the choice between Bitcoin and money as a gift for her grandson's birthday.
Yes.
And it's just like, no doubt, that's a Bitcoin move. That's a Bitcoiner move right there.
Yes.
You know,
yes.
and the fact that, like, what we're doing here has her thinking on that level is a really good sign. I mean, at Ithaca Hummus, Wegmans was our first major customer that we had access to data.
Okay.
Where we could see, like, and also it was, if you go to the hummus section in Wegmans, what you won't find is like 10 different brands. The selection is limited.
Okay.
And so, but there's enough, like there's private label, there's Sabra, and there's us. So you kind of have good, better, best.
Paper, gold, Bitcoin.
Right. So there's enough there to get a good survey of, like, you know, here's a good environment to test whether or not our Ithaca Hummus is built to survive and thrive out there in a larger, more competitive landscape. And so we got to really, I used to look at those numbers every week to gauge whether or not the early adopters we were getting were coming back and buying again. Because if I saw that, I knew all we had to do was just continue to scale up, and that we could replicate that success on a much larger scale in a more competitive marketplace.
Repeat buyers was your key metric.
Repeat buyers.
Yes.
How do we get a repeat rate? Which is basically the same as, like, how do we, it's a gauge on, are we providing value for people or not?
Yes.
Because if we're providing value, then they're going to keep buying our thing.
Yeah.
And if we're not, they're going to try it once and then they're going to go back to what they used to buy.
Yep.
Well, I mean, to hear Ashlyn talk about how Bitcoin has come into her life and how she's using it in her life today was a very, very strong signal to me that she's an early adopter. She's been watching this thing grow from the very beginning, meaning sat chats. And it's now impacting the decisions that she's making in her daily life.
Dude, our involvement in her life is going to set her grandkid up for life.
It's amazing.
And the impact that we have had as a show, we can't gloss over that. Number 3, Justin has sold a rental property and driven some of the profits into Bitcoin after being on our show. My dad has gone from nothing to laser eyes and is dollar cost averaging 5x what I do.
Yep.
And he's even dollar cost averaging parts of his business into Bitcoin. His personal and his business are shifting. My son is getting close to his fair share of the Bitcoin network because Aladdin, dude, I'll tell you this story real quick. We offered Aladdin 48,000 sats. He's like, we did the hummus tasting. Okay. Roasted red pepper. Lion literally put like 3 molecules of hummus on the corner of his woven wheat, took a bite and he was like, you know, like that. We were like
it?
No, because he's so picky.
Yeah.
And Aladdin was like, he's like, did you even get the corner with the hummus on it in your mouth? And so we moved past the hummus tasting. We said, all right, Aladdin, 48,000 or $50. He was like, I'll take the sats. He was like, but guess what? I'll donate it to your co-host if he goes back for a fat glob.
Oh, man.
So we put a fat glob on the woven wheat, and Lion had to, if he wanted Aladdin's 48,000 sats, he was like, it was like a Joe Rogan Fear Factor, like,
that's great,
eating challenge.
Oh, I love
dude,
Aladdin.
It was freaking amazing, dude.
That's great.
So my son's getting close to having 250K sats now.
And
like
now
his
that
fair share.
Now that he had the full glob, though, does he like it?
No. He thinks it has a weird hummus taste.
Yeah.
So anyways, we've had an impact on people, man.
Yeah.
I'm trying to tell you, dude.
Yeah.
And in the comments too, our early adopters, they're getting energized by what we're doing. So I'm just loving it here. Ashlyn, great episode, man. And Chappie said, charming grandma stacks sats chat with great analogies. That episode was grandma stacks sats. I love that.
That's good. That's good.
Now, any mistakes we made? Chappie says sharecropping began after 1865. So Dr. Jamar was talking about that sharecropping value network in the Deep South before the Civil War, where they used buttons and wooden nickels. We'll need to verify when that happened. Was it before the war? Was it after the war? I thought it was a super fascinating story.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm fascinated with value networks that are created separate from governments, because we've only ever grown up in a world where the government's value network, that was it. You know what I mean? So, and then we also talked about how we talked about how with Ashlyn, with inflation, dollars get more and more worthless as they make more. Bitcoin gets more and more valuable as you lose coins.
Yeah.
Chappie's saying that's
nuanced.
Yeah, she's saying the loss shrinks the supply. And then the next step is that the market demand will set the price. But we know what happens. I mean, we kind of blended that together, but it is interesting just to make that distinction that, well, all it actually does is reduce the supply, and it's up to the market to determine whether that has an impact.
When the loss of whatever 4 or 5 million Bitcoins, becomes public and mass adopted as like common knowledge at some point in the future, that's just a future pump waiting to happen. That's all that is. I mean, only like real Bitcoiners who know, who care enough to have knowledge like that know about it today. And there's a lot of little tidbits like that. But I'm not worried that it's not widely understood today, because one day it will be. And guess what's going to happen to that market demand when it is? It's going to skyrocket. And so will the exchange rate.
Well, when you Satillionaires here at the beginning of this show share this with your family and your friends, you share it online, you let people know that there is a new Bitcoin show in town that is talking about Bitcoin like no other podcast is, that has a format like no other Bitcoin podcast does, that has a halving supply schedule like no other show. There's going to be a future pump, dude. That 100K number that we're trying to hit for the 10 million sats, that future pump is already locked in. It's just up to you all out there, our tight core of Satillionaires, to help us reach that number as soon as humanly possible.
And share with your family and friends, like you said.
Yeah.
Change your money, change your life.
Wowie zowie. I love that.
And help them do it too.
Yeah. So remember to smash that subscribe for your chance at 10 million sats. If you're among the first 100,000 subscribers, you really never know. You're at 1,200 subscribers 1 minute, you're at 100K the next. That's how YouTube works. And Johnny was talking about that too.
Really?
Yeah, like he was in a community that creeped to 1,000, creeped to 2,000, stayed at 2,000 forever, and then 4 million, just boop. Because like as soon as YouTube like figures you out, bam. It's over. So Make that happen for us. There are more ways to support this show in the show notes if you are interested. Chief among them is coming on the show. Satchats.com to grab your slot in the studio today.
Whether you're a pre-coiner, a Bitcoiner, we don't care. Bitcoin's for everyone. The show's for everyone. Come on the show. We want to talk to you.
Bring it on into Bitcoinville.
Is that Biscuitville?
Well, remember, it's the SNL skit, like, bring it on into Omnitville. Remember that? Justin Timberlake? Yeah. So, Sat Chats Rehash is for educational purposes only and should not be construed as financial advice. Also, Chappie's views are her own.
Yeah.
We will see you tomorrow.